So what is this time of year like for you? This time of year. Today we're so awakened to this time of year, aren't we? With the snowfall. It's happened already, I know, but it marks this time of year today. What is this time of year like for you? The turning from the light into the depths of winter, the darkness, the cold. Our tree branches heavy still with leaves, catching that snow, bending, reminders of other seasons, the one that we're turning into, so different. This time of year, full of holidays. For a long time, this time of year was a source of kind of an inner turning for me into the experience of loss, of people lost, even if ones I loved had not died during the winter time. There was the sense that they should be around the table, or they should be living in an address to receive a card or a gift. It's kind of a heavy time. Until about 13 years ago, I had the privilege, the gift, the thrill of going to the World Council of Churches Assembly in Harare, Zimbabwe. But I wasn't too happy about it at first because it fell on our Thanksgiving celebration. And so in the first days that I was there was jet lag, but there was also this longing to be back at home, probably feeling heavy, right? Feeling heavy with the anniversary sadness of loss. So I was stretched out on my little mat at the university, where soon there would be 5,000 Christians from all over the world, every walk of the faith arriving to claim our unity in Christ. And I was trying to connect as if I had a telephone or a, Star Trek beamer or whatever with home. And the gift was the veil between heaven and earth becoming very, 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 very thin. And I'd heard about it before. But in that moment, my grandmother, who I lost when I was 6, and everybody said I resembled her, appeared. You've heard that word, I'd heard that word, apparition. But in my kind of Western mentality, that didn't make any sense. My spirituality, my experience of God hardly made any sense inside of the worldview I grew up in. I don't know about you, but it was about that thick. But my grandmother was as real as we are to each other right now. And do you know what she was doing? Anybody want to take a guess? What was my grandmother, who I've been longing for all these years after what felt like her disappearance? What was she doing? Oh, basting a turkey cooking? She was smoking. She was smoking a cigarette, which is what she did all her whole adult life. She and my grandfather would wash dishes, and they had bridges on the window in front of the sink to hold their cigarettes. She was smoking. I could smell it. And what came out of me in seeing her was of course tears, because I think when God makes the thin place, when the veil gets so thin between heaven and earth, we can't help but cry or laugh. So I was crying, of course, but what came out next was actually anger toward her. Anger for leaving, anger for all these things I didn't know were stored up inside of me. It was the most important communication I've had. And she was silent, listening, receiving. And her silence was the most perfect response. So this time of year now, for me, has completely changed by God's grace. It's not a time of the heavy remembrance of disappearance, but actually an anniversary of reappearance. Reappearance. Jesus was on a mountain with some of the disciples, and Moses and Elijah appeared to him. Moses and Elijah, who disappeared, probably, 1,000? 2,000? How many years before? Appeared to Jesus on the mountaintop. And what happened for him was his clothes became dazzling white and his face shone like the sun. When we hear these words about take on the cloak of imperishability, of immortality, so that in our lives we might experience that death has no victory, that death does not separate us. It doesn't have that victory of separating us from each other, of blocking eternal love. Death does not have that victory when we take on the cloak of imperishability, of immortality. And isn't that the story of what happened with Jesus? His clothes became dazzling white. His face shone like the sun. The disciples wanted to build huts. They said, this is so great. Let's build a hut for Elijah. Let's build a hut for Moses. We can come back here permanently and worship and give thanks for this place where the veil between heaven and earth is so thin. But what happens to huts? They perish. What happens to that dazzling white, that dazzling light, that shining like the sun kind of spirit? It doesn't perish. It represents that death has no victory. This moment together is a gift of not only claiming that death has no victory, but it actually gives us a practice for it. Because don't we need that inside of our worldview? Don't we need a practice of taking on the cloak of imperishability, of giving God the chance to fill us with such light and hope? A practice that if it doesn't electrify something now or open up whatever has felt separated and blocked from claiming that love doesn't end. Relationship doesn't end because of death. If it doesn't electrify it now, we keep practicing it, don't we? So we invite you to pick up this practice and come and take a candle, and there are tapers, and you can light the taper, and then if you'll see, you can turn the cup so that it lights the wick. And to name names of those you've loved who have died. To name their names. And as you name the name, take it on as the practice of calling them present, alive through the mystery of God. As you name their names, can they be as real for you in this space, doing whatever they would be doing in this space with you, expressing how loved, beloved you are. And perhaps let the reappearance revive that precious relationship. So we do invite you to come now, and again, to take the candles that are in these basins, to light the lights, and to name the names. You'll see also trays of sand for those votives.